Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity. And it's a beautiful day in my part of the world, not too hot and definitely not too cold. The sun is shining brightly. I can hear so much birdsong out there, so I'm very happy to be alive today. Mouth is healing beautifully as well. So I would like to continue answering questions from the jar. I'm going to reach in and grab a question. I only have a few questions left. I'm going to take a nice deep breath before I begin. Try to get beyond that ego that jumps ahead and say, I know the answer, let me answer, to the wise part of us that exists in all of us that probably do a much better job answering this question than the ego ever would. So I am pressing the start button. And the question I received, wow. Okay, it's something I actually read about lately. Maybe that's why the question came from this. I have done something so embarrassing and publicly shameful when I was under the influence. How do I live with it? This is a fairly personal question. I have done something so embarrassing and publicly shameful when I was under the influence. How do I live with it? That's a really good question. And I had a personal experience of that recently while I was under anesthetic for my mouth, or under sedative for my mouth. I know I've done some really weird and bizarre things. And I don't like not being in control. Like humans, we have this tendency that we have to create a persona or an image that is socially acceptable because we tend to care so much what other people think. That concern for other people that comes in the form of caring is usually due to physiological and psychological reasons that are very normal for the human population. We need to, for safety and security reasons, we need to belong in a pack because we're social animals. So we need the support of other humans to help us stay alive. So we really need to belong to the pack. If we're rejected from the pack, then we're making it on our own as lone wolves, and that can, be very challenging for our human survival. Also, I'm looking at Maslow's hierarchy in his pyramid, in case you're wondering. We can go to the next step. We also have a tendency to need love and belonging. Being mammals, we have a biological need for that love and safety and security love and belonging, safety and security. Those needs are what we need according to Maslow, because we need to feel loved. We need that validation of our worth so that we're not ostracized or rejected by the pack. So there you go. Those are the biological and psychological reasons why we care about what other people think. And of course, we have, since we've been plopped down here in these human forms from wherever it was we came from, we had this tendency to create an ego or a persona, a personality, a psyche, a little me that we identify as, a separate little body, a separate little personal mind, a separate little personality with its roles and its likes and its dislikes, its preferences, as Michael Singer prefers to call them, its desire, as the Buddha would refer to them. And its aversion tendency, which is the opposite of desire, but along the same line as desire, because it keeps us repressing and suppressing the energy that comes with life events that we deem and judge as being unpleasant, unwanted, bad, wrong, shouldn't be. So when we stuff these things inside us, we are constantly reactive and trying to prevent their triggering because it's painful when they come up. We don't want to deal with them consciously, so we're always pushing them down. And we do not want to feel rejection from the pack, because that rejection from the pack is painful as it is. Plus we have all this stuff coming up, creating even more tension and issues that are painful to deal with. So doing something so-called embarrassing, not meeting those expectations we assume society has for us, not being normal like the rest of the pack, being weird, having some kind of a defect that makes us stand out differently so people can observe our differences and therefore are more likely to reject us, that is a very normal reaction. that we have. We've built this persona of protection, this protective personality, Dr. Sue Morter calls it in her book, The Energy Codes. And it is a personality that we want others to see. So I'm creating this image of you, of what I assume you will like in me, so that you keep me in the pack and you keep accepting me. And I do not have to experience the opposite of love and belonging. I don't have to experience that psychological pain of rejection and not fitting in. We all have in us as well this inherent need, this inherent core belief, whether, from our conditioning in the past, and it comes in varying degrees, but I believe all humans contain it for some reason. The sense of unworthiness, and this fear of being seen as unworthy by others. Again, because we do not want to be ostracized from the social pack. So having all that in us is painful. We have spent so much time building this persona, and it takes so much effort and so much energy to keep it there. We have to redeem ourselves from the shame of unworthiness, so we're constantly building things on us and creating new roles, changing our personality to suit others, whether we know it or not. We're constantly doing things that we think are pleasing to others. I would say, and this is a guess because I have no clue, but I would say that at least 85% of us are people pleasers in this world. Why are we people pleasers? Because we fear ostracization from the pack. We fear that sense of rejection. And that is where embarrassment comes from. We don't want others to see our faults. We don't want others to see how vulnerable we are. Because vulnerable animals in a mammalian pack that aren't human, like a wolf pack or something, are often kicked out of the pack. So we are so terrified of people seeing our vulnerability, seeing that we don't measure up to the pack, seeing that we're not enough, seeing what we fear inside ourselves as it is. So when we trip and fall and do something embarrassing, even in milder terms, we feel it. We have this sense of shame. We feel the body, the blood rushing up to the face. We cringe, we hide, we do whatever, because it seems like a mortal sin almost not to meet the pack standards, not to keep up with the rest. So when we do things that are considered weird or strange or abnormal, we are prone to embarrassment. We're prone to that shame experience and that fear. And because they both, shame and embarrassment, come from fear. It's one of the lower energy emotions on our emotional ladder that are down and below what the self with a capital S experiences. We're wrapped up in the little me emotional energy, that stuffed and stored stuff. And that's where shame and embarrassment come from, fear, right? We fear what will happen if people see us as less than the rest of the other members in the pack. What we fail to remind ourselves is that everyone in the pack is experiencing the exact same thing. They too are embarrassed at times. They too feel shame. They too have that inner repressed and suppressed samskaras of unworthiness, that they don't want that energy to come up, and they want to keep building and redeeming themselves persona-wise so that they too fit in. You're not alone in your fear of embarrassment. But still, it requires an awful lot of energy to hold that self with a little s together and to create that image. When we get intoxicated, when we take a substance that lowers our inhibitions, like alcohol, or like in my case, a sedative that I had for my mouth surgery, your inhibitions are gone. You don't care whether or not this persona comes out. You're not holding it down. You're not constantly molding it and shaping it anymore. Your arms are down. So that all that weirdness and that strangeness and that which is really your unique and beautiful and wonderful self, comes through. And in the imperfection of the persona, the imperfection of the human we call me, in the imperfection of the psyche, we have an opportunity to see our embarrassment, to experience our embarrassment, to allow some of that stuffed embarrassment to come up so it is released. We begin to see, if we step back away from the embarrassment, away from the me of this human to the being that is operating this human, to the consciousness, to the true self, and witness as objective observer the human we call me going through this experience of embarrassment, there is so much opportunity for growth, so much opportunity for understanding. And one of the things we understand as we experience this, if we are far back into the objective observer looking at the embarrassing experiences human we call me Ed, we see judgment. We see the fear of judgment from others. But it will also help us to see at a higher level what judgment does to the pack, how judgment negatively impacts the well-being of each member in the pack, but also as the pack as a whole, the collective ego. We need to be sure that we are learning through these experiences that judgment is neither the answer. Judgment of ourselves, which is actually what it's all about, is because we don't have evidence that anybody's thinking anything negative of us, that they're judging us, that they're going to push us out of the pack. It is our internal fear that has been triggered. It is an internal game. And it is us judging us, reactivating that sense of unworthiness we have in us that's actually causing all this embarrassment and this shame and this awful experience. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, I'll never drink again. Of course, I don't want anybody to get consumed with alcohol because, it has its effects. That's neither here nor there. But anyway, that shame experience is a very valuable learning experience when it comes to judgment. And then we can say, if I feel this bad, sometimes what I do when I feel this embarrassed and ashamed of myself, I will project it onto somebody else. I will try to focus this pain I have and put it on someone else and say, look at what that person did. Look at them. Oh my gosh. And I'll judge others because it takes the judgment off of me and it decreases the amount of pain I'm having. Right? It makes me feel a little bit more comfortable inside. So what we can do with these shame experiences is realize the nature of judgment and what it does to the self as well as it does to others. And we can start looking with eyes of compassion on the other beings who too may have this internal sense of shaming, have this sense of unworthiness within them, this fear of embarrassment. And we can have more compassion for them and more kindness for them, more empathy, because we too have experienced what it's like to be on the other end of judgment. And we can start working on removing our own tendency to judge others, our own tendency to judge ourselves, and see that it's okay to make mistakes and be imperfect. It's okay to be weird and strange and abnormal, not like everybody else. Those are just words and concepts and ideas that have very negative connotations to them. But in truth, we are okay if we're different. It's okay if we screw up and do these embarrassing things that others might, oh, I can't believe you did that. As long as we learn from these experiences and look at them as an opportunity to not stuff more down. Like, we could take this embarrassment, stuff it down and repress and suppress more, and that's not going to do any good. Experience the shame. Experience the embarrassment. Let it go. And now, whatever's underneath that in the form of embarrassment and shame to come up, experience that when it's ready to come up and let that go. Purify yourself of all the stuff you stored, all this negative energy you stored from your past experiences of shaming and embarrassment, and let it all go. Free yourself from it. And stop judging yourself and others. Okay? Because each and every one of us has something so beautiful inside us that can never be shamed or embarrassed and can never shame or embarrass anyone else. This is all ego's game, shame and embarrassment. And the more we release the stuff from inside us, the more we release the ego that is at risk of being shamed and embarrassed. That is at risk of shaming and embarrassing others. An acceptance and allowance and an ability to honor and appreciate and see the beauty in the other as well as we see it in ourselves. That will come out from these experiences if we take it, embarrassing and shameful experience, and use it as a learning challenge. Well, that's all I have to say about that. I rambled past my 10 minutes again. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope you have an amazing, amazing day. Namaste.